G'day guys, it's Ben and Simon here and welcome to another episode of the Pumped on Property Show. Now, first of all, Happy New Year. We are so excited to be sitting down with you guys today and getting really deep into our 4 favorite ideas for 2026. I think what I love about this video in particular is we get super granular into these different ideas, whether you're looking for a simple strategy this year or something more advanced, but we also get macro and bigger picture, looking at the Australian market, what's happened, what's to come, and the little ins and outs so that you can pick the absolute eyes out of the market this year. So before we get into this incredible new year of 2026, let's have a quick rundown on 2025. Like, how did it land for you?
Yeah, like I've just sat down and done this over the Christmas break, in between Chrissy and New Year's, just to sort of see how I went in terms of the goals that I set at the beginning of 2025. And I'm pretty proud to say that I achieved every single one of them bar one. I had a goal to sell my crypto in 2025 for $60,000. And unfortunately, after it took a little bit of a dive, I had to sell it for 40. But outside of that, everything else got achieved. I completed the duplex and got half of that sold, half of that rented. I renovated my home and finished that off, and it's been super nice over the Chrissy period to spend some time there. Spent heaps of time with my son, with my wife, with my friends, spent heaps of time in the surf, got to go down to the snow a couple of times as well. Feeling pretty fit as well, like saunaing, ice bathing, training, running, eating well, drinking good water, like, you know, just keeping all of those values at the forefront of my mind. And so another successful year, which has been great. How about yours? Like, did it work out the way that you wanted to, or was it a bit more challenging?
Yeah, so 2025 was one of those split years. Like, half of myself got to absolutely smash it. Like, if we're talking about measuring the year on performance, then out of the stratosphere. If we're talking about the year as a personal journey, it was probably honestly the second hardest year of my life. The last time I can remember it being that tough was about 16 or 17, and that was just because there were so many things that happened over the year. So we bought a new home as a family, which was cool, and sort of have turned that into like exactly what we want, which was amazing. Like, our mum lives there now in one of the like shed houses on it. My Lisa's parents live in the other property, so I've always wanted that sort of commune and be able to like look after mum house-wise, and like I think that was a huge achievement.
Got the chooks, got the fruit trees, got the veggie garden, got it all going, eh?
Got a little tennis court going in as well.
Yep.
So I couldn't be worse at the end of this year than I am currently at tennis, which is exciting. And I think same as you, like health-wise, really turned my health back around, at least physically. Like getting back to Pilates and training and the ice baths and all of that nice stuff. Surfing wise, I ended the year way worse. I just didn't get in the water as much as I thought I would.
Couple of old injuries that you had to take care of.
Yeah, but it was cool. Like, I got over to New Zealand. It was the first time we ever did a snow trip with my kids, and so they all did snowboarding or skiing. Got to Bali a few times with like friends and family, which is super meaningful as well. And property wise, got some stuff done too. Like, just managed to sneak a self-managed super fund purchase in just before Chrissy, which is cool. Sold a whole bunch of stuff too. Like, I think I sold 3, maybe 4 properties in 25 as well. So one of those incredible split years where it's like, man, I got some shit piled on me, but also like phenomenally like moving in the right direction and stripping away the old.
It's you though as well. Like, you've got this split personality as well, and it's just like, it's so funny to hear that like the year in review, it's like, once again a little bit split there. But I think that's life as well, and you're just honest, right? You wear your heart on your sleeve and you just tell it how it is. And it's like, if everyone were to be honest, absolutely, there's some hard times that we all go through, especially when you want to achieve, a life that most people aren't willing to try and shoot for as well. So it's been cool, but like, I look back at 2025 as just a really awesome year for every single one of the amazing people that we got to support. Like, I think we helped over 150 investors enter into the property market, whether it be a first timer, a repeat customer, or somebody that was quite experienced, just looking for that additional support. And when you look at the, average performance of every single one of those properties, it's absolutely smashed the national average, smashed the market averages for where we were buying as well in Brisbane and down in Melbourne and Geelong. And so it's just really nice to once again succeed, because like at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's like, how are we going to maximize that return on investment? You know, I don't do this because I enjoy it. I do it because I enjoy it, but I'm also like trying to succeed and trying to move myself in the right direction.
You know, it's so easy to go, if you were driving down the road and you had $100,000 suitcase in the back of your car and someone threw it out the window, you'd go and stop. Like, actually, most people, myself included, would probably not walk over $2 on the side of the road. And I think as investors, we forget sometimes, and hopefully over the course of 2026, we can help everyone listening to this, you know, recognize that by not working with the right people, or not understanding the history of real estate, or not looking at the predictions properly, or not being able to aggregate 4,000 suburbs in a moment, can mean every single year from here on out, you're missing that $2 or that 100K. And so by the end of this year, we want to see all of you guys make the best decisions and be fully educated and just absolutely smashing it, because the more you smash your investment, the quicker you can be financially free and you can have that life with the choices that you really want to lead.
It's interesting with property as well, because like people don't care as much about it for some unknown reason. Maybe it's because like 60-70% of the market are owner occupiers that don't necessarily care so much, versus if it were the stock market or crypto market, people are so cautious and careful and aware of that percentage return on investment. But when it comes to real estate, for some reason, people don't put as much weight on it. But at the end of the day, it's an investment vehicle. It absolutely matters.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, you and I were just having a little bit of a sticky beak at the history here. Sorry, it's down here. And in the last 18 years, Sydney's done 272%. Wollongong's
I think everyone in Sydney can feel every single bit of that.
Yeah, without a doubt, everyone's wealthy down there now. Like some of these other markets, Brisbane, 239%. Like it's actually wild out there what's happened. And I think that's not even on leverage.
Yeah,
like,
exactly,
you know what I
right?
mean? Like, times it by 5 if you put down 20%. It's actually that exciting.
So there's so many different options as an investor. Obviously, being the 1st of January or early in the new year, depending on when you're listening to this, it's super important to set that intention, set those goals, have a look at, okay, where am I at right now? Where do I want to be by the end of the calendar year? How is that going to influence my longer term goals? What held me back in 2025 from being able to achieve those goals? You know, what were some of the things that kept me kicking that can down the road? And it's like, how can I figure out a way to just step into action and start executing, which is why we're super excited to share a bunch of different ideas today to help you figure out what your next step is going to be and what type of property or what type of market you should be considering. So what's one of your favorite ideas for 2026?
You know, I understand that Perth and Darwin and Adelaide are going nuts right now. But I think it's really important for me to say that I'm going to be focused on the East Coast this year. So loving the look of Brisbane. Like, according to SQM in their base case scenario, what are they sort of saying? Like,
I'm not going to botch this, so just give me a sec. I'll pull it up now. So base case scenario for Brisbane is up 10 to 15%.
Cool. And obviously, you know, Perth is going to be, and Darwin are going to be two of the top performing markets according to this. Like, what are they expecting in those ones next year?
Perth, similar to Brisbane, 12 to 16, so hit or miss there. Darwin, 12 to 16, so same as Perth. Adelaide, 10 to 14%. So once again, those 4 markets that have been crushing it over the last couple of years, or a bit longer for Perth, Brizzy and Adelaide, are going to continue. Melbourne's started to make a resurgence, up 4 to 7% in that scenario. Sydney, 3 to 6%. Hobart, 4 to 7%. And then Canberra, 3 to 6%. The cool thing is they've put Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast and Mackay, Early Beach. I don't know why they just chose the Queensland regional markets and nowhere else, but same thing. Sunshine Coast, 10 to 15%. Goldie, 7 to 11. Mackay, Early Beach, 7 to 12%. Like, capital growth across the board, but clearly a higher expectation for Perth, Brisbane, Adelaide, Darwin again. But those markets have been on an absolute tear right now.
Yeah, so the predictions look phenomenally good. And then if we look at the first idea that I think we both like, sort of going back to what I said about the east coast of Australia, 75% of the population, job, infrastructure, and population growth are going to be in these markets over time. So as we go down the rabbit hole of my first idea that I love, it's just traditional single income bread and butter property, probably in New South, Vic, or Queensland personally. So it could be the cities, it could be the regional markets, but effectively a good quality home, 3 or 4 bed on a good quality piece of land in a great suburb, close to the city, close to the beach in those towns, that has sort of worked. And it could be an established home. It could be buying a piece of land and building a brand new home in one of those markets. It could be finding an old shitter and basically knocking down and rebuilding as well.
Yeah, when we were having a look at the market at the back end of last year, remember we saw that burnt down house in Geelong? And it was like selling, the price guide was 260,000 to 300. Don't know where it ended up selling for, but yeah, it was like there's new house and land estates that were further from Geelong, further from the water, on smaller blocks of land that were selling for more than that.
Yeah.
And you can buy these knockdowns in certain areas for like less than brand new land value as well. And it's only like $20,000 to $40,000 to knock down a house these days as well. So there's that's a little bit of a hidden gem, I think, that people aren't aware of, to make sure that the quality of that land is great, because you hear about land and build, and sometimes you're in areas on the outskirts of town and smaller pieces of land because the developers are struggling to make money, and it's hard to get the numbers to stack up. But when you can do that in an established suburb, in an established location, there can be great margins there, but it's hard to find a property that's been burnt down.
Yeah, like I've seen 2 of them this whole year personally, and they were both in one market. But I think for me, and probably yourself, like that simple strategy has worked extremely well in our past. So, your example of your own home for, buying an established single income property with a home on it, like how's that worked out for you on the sunny coast?
I think it's just what most people want at the end of the day. Like, a lot of the Australian market is driven by owner-occupiers, and, when we get into some of these other ideas, most owner-occupiers don't want to be living in that type of property, unless it's in like an awesome location, like in Noosa or, in Sydney somewhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you just, buying the thing that everybody wants. And it's worked for me in North Brisbane as well. I've actually spent some money on my home to renovate it, which has been nice, but very costly expense to do that. Whereas down in North Brisbane, it was more just about buying what I could afford, buying what I know works. So like a desirable market, a desirable suburb, a desirable street, a big block of land, no red flags, no flooding, no housing commission, no noise overlays, nothing that's going to hold back the capital growth rates, and timing. Buying at the bottom of a real estate cycle, buying at the very beginning of the Brisbane market. Now, obviously, fast forward 7 years since that purchase, it's no longer the bottom of the market. I think I looked at it the other day, the property's gone up by over 100%. So
Wow.
If I had my time again, would I be doing that in Brisbane? Maybe not. I think I like opportunities in Victoria more so than Queensland personally, but I've obviously rinsed Brisbane over the last 7 or 8 years now. So you've got to make that decision based on where you're at as an investor as well.
I think that's interesting, man. Like when we look at a couple of those markets, just, part of what we want to do this year is just really help you guys make better decisions and make decisions based on data. So in Brisbane, if we look at a couple of the councils aggregated through HTAG, in the last 7 years, exactly what you said, 98.29% versus Melbourne. So 2 or 3 of the local council areas aggregated 11.31% in the same period of time. So there's a 87% difference between one area in the last 7 years and the other. Now, if I had have looked at that data 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when we started to buy Brisbane back in 2013, 14, 15, 16, Brisbane would have looked like Melbourne does now.
Yeah, it was the opposite.
And Melbourne would have looked like Brisbane does. So there is this constant tension and ebb and flow. And the tension is in people move towards places where everyone else is moving to at the same time because it feels comfortable and it's got a recent history of killing it. But value is very different than hype. And I think as I move into this year, I've accidentally got swayed by some of that post-COVID, I'm not going to lie. Like buying where other people are buying and thinking it's going to keep working out versus investing purely from a data perspective in the new year. And I think there's many people out there in the same position that's like, I've made 100%. Is that possible again? Like, is it possible in this suburb where people earn $2,000 a week for it to go from 1 mil to 2 mil in the next 7 years? Maybe not. But is it possible for a place where people earn $3,000 a week, where their house is worth 650K for them to go to a mil? Maybe not again, but I'm sort of using the data to drive decisions.
It's all we've got. We've only got the history, and like there's so much information out there these days that it does make it easier to make an educated decision. But I think when it comes to property investing, a lot of people get too emotional, and this is where they make mistakes. You know, it becomes overwhelming to figure out which one of the 13,000 suburbs in Australia to buy, which one of the 50,000 properties that sell each month should I buy, and then they retreat to their comfort zone. And, you know, I don't think there's any benefit in living in that comfort zone in any area of life. It's like you talk about your year in 2025 and it's like you got pulled out of your comfort zone, but you grew so much as a human being. And it's like, if your comfort zone is like, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to buy inner city Brisbane apartment because that's all I can afford and that's where I live, or I'm just going to buy an apartment in Sydney because that's where I live and that's all I can afford to buy right now, and it's just too overwhelming and too scary to consider doing anything else. And you know, I experienced this at the back end of 2025 as well, like setting up a self-managed super fund and starting to negotiate and put offers on properties. As of recording this, there's nothing so far, but by the time it gets released, there'll probably be something there anyway. And, you know, investing in a market and a suburb that I've never been to, investing purely based off the history, purely based off the data, whilst it's the right thing to do based on what we've done from purchasing over $650 million worth of property, there's still this emotional attachment that makes me scared.
Am I making the right call? Am I not?
Exactly.
Is it the right market or the right time? Like, how do I feel about this for my family now? Like, you're not just thinking about yourself anymore, and neither am I. And it's like, is this the best I can do for my family? Because I'm trading time away from my kid for this.
Yeah, and only time will tell. We'll only know once we fast forward 5 or 10 years from now whether or not it was the right decision. Now we've got hindsight from when we started buying Brisbane to where it's at now. It worked. And until we have that hindsight, we won't know, but it feels right. And, you know, I don't know if that's the right thing.
I've been doing this, man, every single week now for 16 years, and I know what you just bought, and we'll do a video on it in the future. You're going to fucking crush it because it's the exact same data that I used to make decisions in 2011, 13, 15, 20. When a market's 10-year growth rates look like the suburb you just bought, there's some good upside coming. It's exciting.
So we'll get there. So idea one is just sticking to what works, not stepping outside the box, not trying to do anything too overwhelming or too exciting. It's like, let's just stick to what works. And like, this is what 70 to 80% of our investors are buying at the moment. But there's some other cool ideas as well. You've got a lot of experience with the second one, so why don't you share some of your experiences and another idea that you love for this year coming forward?
You know, idea 2 is the good old dual income property, which...
We're back, baby!
We're back! So what happened is building prices and land prices got really expensive. But now the existing housing market has caught up to that and building has actually come back. Like, I'm getting rates now that were probably as good as we were getting back in 2022, 2023. So it's exciting. It's stabilized finally. So with dual income, we're really talking about buying an existing home with a huge backyard and building a granny flat. Not like the good old days of the ones in Sydney where you just literally have a shared clothesline and this weird dunger out the back. Like, a really high quality, purposeful, tiny home that we just make trendy as.
They're even better than a tiny home. Like there's the two companies just near where we are right now that do the tiny homes, and I look at them, they're nowhere near as nice as these purpose-built granny flats, like 2 bed, 1 bath, open kitchen, living, dining, little deck on the outside as well, 60, 70 plus square meters, bit of landscaping, some garden beds outside as well. Like they're really livable, and that's what it's all about. It's like creating a functional, livable property that's going to be desired by the tenants that live in that suburb.
You know, and if your cup of tea is brick tile, slab on ground, go for that. If you are in a market where you want to do it on piers and cladded and like Queenslander style, do that. Like, you know, there's so much customization in these. Like I've done them before with blue kitchens, black kitchens, like really trendy outlooks, like really trendy landscaping. And then I've been slumlord as well, and I've done them like as
cheap as you can.
as quickly as cheaply as I could. But that's one idea. I love it. Like I've done 6 houses and granny flats now out of the 20 properties that I've bought over the years. I wish I owned them all still. I don't. I own one of them now. But, you know, lessons learned. And one of my key lessons for the new year is hold on to stuff for longer after reviewing my entire portfolio in late December. But it could be an existing house and granny flat. It could be another thing that we're seeing now is in the likes of Brisbane in particular.
And New South Wales.
And New South Wales. Like there's all these people that did houses and granny flats or built a brand new house with a granny flat under the same roof 5 years, 7 years, 15 years ago, that they're finally coming back to the market. And they're actually at the same price or even below replacement cost. So for those of you that don't like building, that's scary or expensive or you're not getting income, you can just go buy the thing now. And there's probably 1 to 2 of them that are really, really reasonable on the east coast of Australia every single month right now.
Otherwise, if you want to just start from complete scratch, you can go find a brand new piece of land that's big enough in an area where the developer will let you build a dual income property on top of it, which I know you've done and we've helped other clients do many, many times. That one really works as well. And like the best thing about this is like it's for investors at the end of the day. And why it's for investors is it enables you to manufacture some value yourself. So you're not just relying on that one single income property to generate leverage, capital growth, and some okay cash flow while you hold it. In this scenario, it's like, well, how can I roll up my sleeves, get my hands a bit dirty, manufacture some value? What I mean there is like cash flow, number one. You're getting a second residence, a second rental income from the property. Number two, you know, there's sometimes an equity uplift there as well, if possible, if done right. And then thirdly, it's to get some depreciation benefits. Like with interest rates being so high, with the cost of living being so high, income's not really keeping up with inflation in recent years. It's super important to try and maximize the income and reduce your expenses. And if you can get a second income, if you can get some depreciation benefits by getting your hands dirty and becoming more of an active investor, then idea 2 is a great way to do it.
You know, in the past, like when I had a few more of these properties, like imagine a place where in your industry, your income capped at 150K right now. And I don't know what the tax rate is on that, but
37, I think.
Yeah, like you're paying a good chunk of tax, right, on a big chunk of that money. In the past, when I had a whole bunch of these houses and granny flats set up, I think in some years the depreciation in that year was 65 to 85 grand. Like imagine you don't have an ability in your industry right now for your income to go up, but based on your property allocation and Australian taxation, which talk to your accountant and financial advisor about, but the government wants us as investors to build product, and on your 150, instead of losing 20, 30K, whatever you lose, you just earn 150 in the pocket. And so you don't have to, like your colleagues, go out there and chase it and get to 200 grand to do that. You just get really smart investment strategy in place and absolutely maximize like the tax benefits that the government loves giving us right now.
And we're seeing a lot of people, you know, first timers that want to maximize their cash flow or reduce the number of properties that they need to achieve financial freedom. Also, a lot of business owners and a lot of people that are investing within a company or a trust love these types of strategies because you get really good cash flow. And then obviously the existing dual income properties, we probably bought 20 to 50 of those last year for people in self-managed super funds as well, because the yield's so strong with the big deposits that you put down in the SMSF.
Yeah, so I like that strategy. But obviously there's layers to this stuff, player. And if we look at like the new year and we look for the 4 years ahead, you've just had phenomenal success in this personally, with the property you bought, which we'll go into in a moment, and achieving it in 2025. But not everyone wants to buy a normal home. Not everyone wants a house in granny flat. I get it. Another idea that we really like, for the first time in a long time, because they're finally making financial sense again, not just long term, which they do, but short term in some markets too, is a duplex, or creating a duplex strategy. So that could be like what you did, which is a house and building a brand new property out the back. Or it could be in the form of a piece of land where you build 2 brand newies. Or it could be in the form of a knockdown rebuild as well in some of the parts of Melbourne and things like that, or Sydney or Queensland right now. How many have we seen people clean up on the Sunshine Coast in the last few years too?
Oh my God, it's been incredible.
But what about your one? Like, you smashed it last
Yeah.
year with one of these.
Yeah, I love it, and this is going to be a major part of my strategy in my personal name, or if I do invest in company or trust moving forward. This is me. Like, this is my idea. I love it. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
And the reality is, like, the Australian government's been letting in 400 to 600,000 people per year, and so it's putting an immense amount of pressure on local governments to rezone, to incentivize private investors to increase the supply, so we can see those vacancy rates stabilize, so we can see property value or property capital growth rates stabilize to a more manageable level, hopefully back in alignment with what we've seen in the past.
You asking for less capital growth?
I know, right? Yeah, just be careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah.
It's been working, so when when demand outweighs supply, we're going to see property values go up and rental returns go up as well. So, obviously this is council dependent. It is site dependent. You need a much bigger team of advisors. You've got to be willing to accept a high level of risk as well, because there's a lot of uncertainties.
Not for the faint-hearted, this one.
No way. This is the 4th property that I purchased, is where I implemented this. So I bought a house, 720 square metre block of land, tiny 3-bed, 1-bath located at the front of the property, 18 metre frontage, huge amount of side access, full driveway down the side. And then I was legally allowed to build another 4-bed, 2-bathroom house in the backyard, but I just couldn't afford to do that. So I just did a really nice 3-bed, 2-bath.
Bro, that just, like, it got me going, what you just said. I was just thinking in the back of my head, like, some people love sport, some people love their whatever thing, some people love cars, but just how you talked about that site, I'm like, oh, that's a good site.
It's like
a real
site. Property porn.
100%.
And so I built it, and then I actually retrospectively, after completing it with a town planner, a lawyer, a surveyor, an engineer, and the local government, so it's like, this is a big time strategy. We looked at coming back and strata title subdividing the property. So this went from 20 Homebush Drive in Regent's Park to 1/20 and 2/20. And then on separate titles and 2 separate rentals, I was actually allowed to sell the front half of the property. So I bought the joint in 2021 for 450 grand. I then built this house in the backyard for about 350 grand. So what's that, all into it for about 800. I then sold the front half for $705,000.
That's incredible.
And now I still own the back half with about $250,000 worth of debt, which was like the 50 grand cash deposit I did, and then the $300,000 of whatever it was, equity that I used from the property. And now the market's gone up so much that property is worth like $800,000 to $850,000. Now I'm going to keep it because Brisbane's booming. Why would I sell a brand new property that's depreciating? I think that produces something like 4 or 5 grand a year positive cash flow for me as well.
When SQM's predicting Brisbane next year to do 10 to 15%, like, why sell it if you can hold it? It's not crushing your lifestyle.
That's it. So I love it. Like, it's similar to Idea 2, but instead of just getting 2 rental incomes, you do get the 2 rental incomes, you do get the depreciation, but you also get the 2 separate titles. But Doing it retrospectively means that there's a high level of risk. You could get a town planner at the local council on a bad day that just says, stuff you. I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
I'm not
we
approving
highly
it.
don't recommend that strategy, but obviously through your team of advisors, you're able to pull it off.
That's right. That's right. And I was willing to take the risk, and it paid off, but I've seen it not pay off too many times as well.
You know, what's so incredible about this, right, is what year did you buy it again?
21.
So Simon bought the property in 2021 and I bought a property in 2021 as well. From 2021 to the end of 2025, both properties went up in line with market values, right? Both were in undervalued parts
Suburb
of the
values.
city. Yes, sorry, suburb values went up. So let's say it's 2026 now, and you've effectively gone up in alignment with market value, but by having something special to do like the duplex, I think you made an extra 50% at least compared to what the market would normally do. So for those investors out there that want more of an accelerated strategy where they're prepared to take more risk, and instead of just working with us, a building and pest inspector, a solicitor and a property manager, they also add a builder, town planner, surveyor, etc., etc., etc. And instead of just buying a property and chucking a tenant in on day one, they go through this process either now or in the future. The upside on your return investment in total is significantly better. And I think the ninth property I ever did was one of these as well. And I just forgot until you did this how when you nail timing,
Yes.
when you have a long-term approach, which you did, when you also get the right market, when you get the right type of property with all of those things that you mentioned before that we both love, and then you start thinking, well, what about cash flow? And what about tax benefits as well? Just how well investing can be pulled off.
And that's the thing, like, had I done that in 2021, the returns wouldn't have been there. And if you were to buy that site today and do it in 2026, you're not going to see those returns. So it's like buying this idea one, the ideal single income property, and letting the market do its thing over a short, medium or long period of time. And then obviously having a bit of an ace up your sleeve. That's all it is at the end of the day. When I bought the property in 2021, the zoning didn't actually allow me to do that project. It was only when 2024 or 2023 swang around where I was allowed to do that. So once again, there's just a high level of risk and a lot of question marks and uncertainty there. But at the end of the day, like, I was super fortunate for it to work out. I'm going to give it a crack again down in Geelong at some point over the coming years as well, once I've got enough money to be able to do it. And I'm not going to do it immediately, but I'll look at I'm going to try and have it all right.
Of course.
Get the right property, the right suburb, the right block, and then have the ability to manufacture some value down the line.
It's the pumped on property way. It's like, I want the cake and I want to eat it and I want more cake.
Yeah.
It's like, that's why we only take on
greedy.
such a small number of people each week, because it's like we want to help people not just like rinse it, but absolutely squeeze everything out. Because if you can get freedom in your life in 15 years instead of 30, then you can have a major impact on the people around you in a positive way. Like, you can become who you're supposed to be. You can do what you're supposed to do with your life. You can be generous. You can be happier. You can be healthier. You can be, the light in the people's lives around you is like, hey, if I did it, like, most of my mates like, what? Like,
Yeah.
that guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if me and you can pull it off with the way that we grew up and like the mindset we originally had, to just slowly educate yourself, to slowly level up your team, to slowly take calculated risks in the right direction, and then over time to like get obsessively detailed around the numbers that work. You can start picking winners not over 1 year. Anything can happen in a year, anything can happen in 5, but if you know how to look for them, you can find big winners over 10, 15, 20 years that will completely change your stars.
There is a method to the madness, though. Like, we've seen it now. You've been doing this for over 10 years, helping other people invest, and like just watching the markets change as they do. And it's like in 2020, 2021, you and I were sitting down and we knew what was about to happen in Perth and Adelaide. You could see the writing on the wall.
Yep.
It's clear as day. When I remember doing a video at the end of 2023, start of 2024 with my sister Crystal and talking about Darwin, and I said, Darwin is Australia's most undervalued market right now. you watch it boom in 2024 and 2025. Fast forward to today, it's been Australia's top performing market over that period of time. And now, after analysing 4,000 suburbs, looking at all the major metro markets, all the major regional markets, and looking at the historic performance and the things that matter, population growth, infrastructure growth, affordability, rental returns, it's starting to look like, parts of Victoria now. And I hate to continue to flog that, but I guess I've just got so much conviction in it, which is, where I'm heading for Idea 4 in 2026 as well. So let's get stuck into something that a fair high percentage of our clients are doing at the moment as well, which is, they've done well with their investment properties and maybe their own home, starting to reach their servicing limits. And it's like, I want to continue the journey, but, the banks are shutting the door on me. Like, how do I kind of continue investing in other ways without having to, do it in my own personal name?
So for this strategy that you and I have just kicked off, it's really as simple as going, do I have a little bit of money in super? And then going and talking to your accountant and your financial advisor plus your mortgage broker about it and going, what are the pros and cons of continuing to invest in what I've got versus moving into the property market? And it has to be very specific types of properties in super, but effectively going, I'm here today and getting those guys to model where you could be longer term. And for me, I went, well, I'm currently in Host Plus because that's what the Barefoot Investor said. Phenomenal. Like, thank you so much, man, for that advice or those ideas in his book, because I got great returns over the last 5 years that I've been there. I saved a heap in fees and that was fantastic. But I just finally got to that point where I had enough to consider a property, and our positions are different. Like, I can go out there and buy a property at the moment, but because I just got a new home and I've spent a lot of cash sort of fixing it up, I didn't really want to do that right now. So I was kind of like, I'm kind of tapped out because of choice outside of super, and so inside of super I can have another crack. Where your position, like so many others, is kind of like, you've had a real good crack in the last 7 years and you could go again, but not without taking on risks that you don't want to take on right now.
At this stage of life as well.
Yeah, the stage of life and the stage of the cycle. And so you went, shit, I've got 200K in super. Like, what can I do for that?
Is there options? And that's the thing. Like, that's why we always say, before you even start considering your goals or, which one of these 4 ideas is going to suit you for 2026, but it's like looking at, where am I at right now? Because everyone's in a different situation. I've got a young single income household, got young families at the moment, and I've had a hell of a journey, and it's like everybody's on their own journey, doing it at their own pace. So I'm struggling to get those words out. Just what I'm trying to say.
Trying to have a rap battle with Eminem, maybe.
Failing, yeah, choking. And so, like, it's each to their own, and that's why it's good to have that team of advisors. So, I sat down with Pool Group and I'm like, look, we've just pocketed a whole bunch of cash from selling an investment. We've got a huge CGT bill to pay. Like, is there any strategies? Is there any ways for us to avoid having to pay this massive CGT bill? Good problem to have. Now, like, well, have you thought about distributing some to super? And I'm like, well, no, I've never thought about that.
What is that? Like,
exactly.
Is the right question. How do I do that?
So they walked me through the whole process, and I understood self-managed super funds from talking with Alex and talking to clients that have been doing this recently. And, we had a look with a mortgage broker about how much money are we going to need for a deposit to buy a house? Is that going to be enough money to buy a good quality house in a good quality market, suburb, etc., etc.? And the answer was yes. And so I'm like, cool, well,
I'm back in the market, baby.
I know property, I trust it. I don't know stocks, and that's where my money was. I don't know commodities like gold and silver, and even though those things are going great right now, it's like, I don't know them. I'm like, well, let's take control of my retirement money, my superannuation, which it's crazy that people just kind of don't think about it.
Yeah, it's like you wouldn't have 300K outside of super
and not
just sitting it in the bank account, depreciating it, unless you had it offset. So it's like, that's what I was doing. Like, I didn't think about it until I was able to do something with it.
Oh, that's a future problem. 60, 65 is so far away. Like, why worry about it? I'll worry about it then. But then you talk to people in their 50s and 60s that are very worried about it. So it's like, well, let's use that hindsight as a way to make a better decision now. And it's like, if I can leverage that 200K into a property, into a market that I believe in, and I've got a 30-year journey. If I were to sink that $600,000 property into a good asset and hold it for the next 30 years, at a 6% compound growth rate, it gets to almost $3.5 million at that point in time. And it's just like, I don't think I would have been able to do that in a Host Plus managed fund, which I was doing previously as well. So it's all dependent on the advice and your personal situation. And that was the advice that I received. And it was an industry and a market that I knew and I was comfortable with. So, you know, I went ahead and I'm going to give it a crack.
It's super exciting. Like, I have seen and helped like a lot of people do properties in their super. Like, they get them set up with their accountants and advisors, and then we obviously know the market as their buyer's agent and help them. But I hadn't really put myself into that category until I started to look Australia-wide and go, man, for the first time in a few years, like, I know the market's been going absolutely off its head, but for the first time in a few years, I'm actually like very excited as an individual investor. And so before we talk about what our plans are at the moment for this new year, I just did want to say, regardless of where you start or we start, there really are only ever three parts to this journey to freedom or financial freedom. So the first step really, regardless of where we are, is going, do I have enough assets right now to make me financially free in 5, 10, 15 or 20 years time? Or do I actually need to go out there and buy some more assets that are going to get me to where I want to be? Now, I was in a position in 2025 where I had the properties that I needed to do that. And then my wife and I decided to buy a slightly more expensive home. And to get that home, I sold a bunch of my properties. And so now I'm back to square one, which is accumulating high quality properties over the next 5 years to get me to where I want to be by 60. And so step one is as simple as, what can I borrow? Do I want to go buy something or not? Because some people will and won't want to this year. And if I do, then, you know, getting my head around the market and getting a team in place that can help me find the needle in the haystack. Then the second phase is, once you've got enough, you know, consolidate, slowly pay off the debt. And we talk about this in our 2 or our 3 properties, the financial freedom strategies, and this, you know, 5 or 6 things you can do to slowly pay off the debt over a 15-year period on your own home and your investments so that you're debt free at that time.
And my thing here is, like, a lot of people and a lot of the ideas that you hear out there from other people in this space is like, just continue to grow. So I think before you start consolidating and you know, once you complete accumulation, I think you mentioned something just before which I feel as though has a lot of weight, which is enough. Identify what is enough. And it's like, that might be 100K per year, 150, 200. For some people, it might be $1 million per year of passive income. You choose what is enough to you, but be realistic. You know, understand what your values are, understand what your lifestyle is, and the type of life that you want to be living when you are financially free and you are wanting to slow down. So really figure out what that enough is. But then when consolidating, it's like, more isn't more. Like, it's going to keep you continuing work. It's going to keep you in the system. It's not going to give you any freedom. You're always going to be under the thumb of the banks and those fluctuating interest rates, where you'll go from having 100K passive income, but if you're in a high debt position, that could go to negative $100,000 in a year or two with an interest rate hiking cycle. So, you know, I think consolidating the debt is underrated and super important, especially when you get to your 50s, 60s and you know, 70s. No doubt about it, you want to eliminate all of the debt on that portfolio so that you are just not under the thumb of somebody else.
Without a doubt. Like, I think, you know, depending on where we are, and myself and yourself and most people listening to this are really in positions where we're on the way up. We're still working towards it. We're still talking about buying properties. We're still planning for the future. We're still figuring out how to have a good lifestyle, love time with the people we care about, and get ahead in our careers, our businesses, or our portfolios. And as someone I'm now in my 3rd stage of accumulation over 16 years. So I bought some stuff, realized I'd bought some lemons and wanted to change strategy at 31, went from 9 properties to 2. Then from 31 to 39, what did I do? Buy another 9 properties. I didn't always keep all of them at the same time. And now I'm back to just 3. Like our office is one of them. So I'm just right back to sort of square one because of the decisions that I decided to make. And now I'm going through my third stage of accumulation, and I'm much clearer this time around what I want. And after doing a full portfolio review, which I think there's a video online you can check out called I bought 18 properties in 16 years, here's everyone. And I actually like show pictures of each property, the lessons that I learned. But what I learned after recording it is I fucked up big time. I should have just had a longer term approach to building wealth and not been so transactional.
Yeah, but what you know at 24 versus what you know at 40, that's just two completely human beings, two completely different people. Like 2011 versus 2025, very different worlds that we live in. And so, you know, you got to take everything with a grain of salt, right?
Oh, I do. Like, but
a big grain of salt.
What I've learned, I don't look back and regret it.
No.
I look back and go, lessons.
Yeah.
Like, people get cut and they get hurt from their past. I get cut and get way stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And I learn the lessons that need to be learned. And it wasn't until it was the first time I ever looked at what I paid for these properties, what they ended up being worth if I had kept them today, and how much money I put down. And just to give you the screenshot, I think there was about $3 million of deposits that went down to buy about $12 million worth of property that today would be worth over 25 mil. And I'm just kind of looking at that going, shit, that's nowhere,
even the lemons.
I'm not there at all. My worst
sweet.
Properties have doubled in value. Some of the properties have quadrupled in value since I picked them up, because I was using the data that we still use to help the couple of people that we take on each week to make better calls. But I think if you just go, this way or that way, and you don't learn from the past, you can't make better decisions moving forward. And even this morning, we asked one of our new team members who's as obsessed with this stuff as you and I are in a different way to go look at Sydney or New South Wales and every one of the big markets there, the same with Vic and Queensland. And what's beautiful to see is every single one of them has kicked ass in the last 18 years. Basically, everyone's kicked ass in the last 10. So regardless of what you bought and what you own or what you plan on buying this year, you're going to kick ass if you hold it.
100%.
But if you're like us and you want to squeeze the lemon,
get a little bit more.
Man, these ideas, buying a single income home, an existing home, or building one, or a house and granny flat if you want to have a bit more fun. And I like having a bit more fun.
Exactly.
Like a duplex like you just did. Or if you're capped out, but you're in a great financial position and you've got a cool team of advisors that can help you weigh the costs and benefits, because there's negatives of buying property in super.
100%.
One of them is the property I bought was expensive, the rent's not great, and I'm going to be up for a bit of cash each year. So that's just, something that I didn't have to worry about in Host Plus. But regardless of which way you enter the year, what I realized and what I wrote to myself after I recorded that video is, I'm going to be somewhere 15 years from now. I might as well be at a place that I want to be at. And what I've also realized is that my lizard brain will never stop wanting more, chasing more. It was originally for financial freedom and to get away from my past. Then it just became, and I hate saying this, full greed and full blown just more is better. Like most young men, if they're being honest with themselves, are trying to do. Then it became about setting my family up. Now it's about setting my wider family and community up. And, ultimately it's all just going to be on loan. I invest now because I love the game of investing.
Yeah. Even if you do pay off the debt, you're going to be passing it on at some point.
I love investing now, and I want to invest in 2026 because I now, when my kids are in their 30s, want to pay off their properties outright for them and give them a lifestyle that you couldn't dream of. You need to keep re-sparking a different why, and hopefully over time, as people move through accumulation and into freedom, they look at, who can we help and who can we pull up at the same time, because that is what this, I now realize, was all about. Getting my time back at 40, getting your time back at 34, so that we can do meaningful stuff like this and people can learn from my like stupid ass mistakes.
It's so important to do the deep work though as well, and like be thoughtful and mindful of who you are and what you want to do and how long you want to do it for, and what it's all for at the end of the day as well. Like, buying a property for the sake of buying a property is a bad decision. Buying a property because your colleague or friend or family member has just bought one and they had a good experience. Like, there needs to be more purpose-driven decisions, and I think that's what a lot of the world lacks these days, is like a little bit of understanding as to why they're doing what they're doing. And that's why we always talk about, understanding who you are and understanding what your values are and who you want to be spending time with, what you want to be spending time doing. Like the Peter Attia stuff of like thinking about, and the stuff that you say as well. It's like I'm 80 years old or I'm 90 years old and I'm grateful for. And really trying to have that hindsight and perspective of like, what am I doing all of this for? Why am I doing it? And is it for greed or ego, or, is it for being able to support myself and my family and everybody else? I think it's important to really understand the why and start with why, as Simon Sinek says, so that it is, you're not just moving through this journey of life getting smacked around because there is no thoughtfulness, there is no mindfulness to the decisions that you make, but actually like sitting down and doing that deep work like both of us have done.
If I look at all of Australia moving into the new year, like 2026, and, all the way through to 2030, really, 2032, let's just use the Brisbane 2032 Olympic Games as like a landing point. I personally really like the look of Perth because the data is just hot. It's hot over there. It's undersupplied. People earn a fortune. Mining doesn't seem to be going anywhere at the moment, that's for sure. Just when you think the energy thing's over, AI pops up and now it's like we can't deliver enough.
Can't get enough of it.
And so, that looks cool, but I missed it. I flat out just missed it, like you said. In 2021, you and I knew. I physically was over there for 3 months in 2023. Pre-approvals ready. I couldn't pull the trigger on the ground for personal reasons because I have a reference to Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, and I'm not just chasing speculation. I'm chasing low risk, long term investing. Like, I don't have the stomach for a 10, 15% vacancy rate, and in 5 years' time, no one wanting my property. I don't have a stomach for 14 years flat. I don't have a stomach for property prices in my area coming back 35% in case I want to hold that one long term. I don't like the blowing of the wind and that being my destination. So I also think Adelaide looks cool. Darwin looks cool. But for me, why am I not investing in those areas is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And it's the reason I'm back on the East Coast is Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria look good for all sorts of different reasons. And there's literally hundreds of sub-markets within that. But if we look at my favourites, it's by far Brisbane, by far Melbourne at the moment. Now, I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. Like when I started to buy Sydney in 2011 or the Central Coast in 2013, the Central Coast in 2011 as well, and then the Sunny Coast in 2013 and Brisbane in 2014, people were like, what are you doing? Every single time. When I started to like help clients buy in the Goldie 10 years ago, or Brisbane or the Sunny Coast at that time, or at that point we were still buying in Wollongong and Newcastle for people, it was like, what are you doing? Like, these aren't the hot spots. Back then, Sydney and Melbourne were killing it. And I know that's the feeling now. It's like, why would I buy this area that did 2% last year when I could buy this area that did 17 again? And isn't that going to happen again?
If you need more of an explanation than that, then you're on the wrong path.
And it's not necessarily that I don't see value. Like Brisbane, every way you look at it is going to run off its head. Infrastructure, population, jobs, incomes.
Well, that's what drives property values up over the long run, is like those underlying fundamentals. Are people wanting to live in those areas? do those people have access to a good, high-paying job? Is the government and private businesses spending money on that area, like new hospitals, universities, shopping centres, land developments, railways, tunnels, all of that jazz? Like, is the money coming into those areas, and you know, is there relative affordability? Like, can you actually afford to buy something that's worth buying? Like, when I look at Sydney versus Melbourne, over the last 30 years, they've basically done the same thing, according to Cotality. But to get into Sydney right now, it's going to cost me $1.2 million to get into a shitty suburb. Or I could spend $700,000 and get into a shitty suburb of Melbourne. And it's like, well, if that's all I can afford, it's like I'd prefer to get 2 properties in Melbourne, have 2 properties exposed to that leverage capital growth rather than just one in Sydney, knowing that over the long term, they both see a relatively similar capital growth rate. And if you look at the last 18 years, according to this, Melbourne's like 100% cheaper than Sydney is right now. In some locations, in the local government areas that we looked at for that, it's just outrageous.
You know, Sydney has done 272% growth versus Melbourne's 146%. So when
that's going to scare most people, thinking that, like, why would I go to Melbourne over Sydney for that? But to me, you got to look further out than that.
And then you go back to the 30 years and it's like, I can't remember what Sydney had done, but I know houses in Melbourne have done over 500% during that 30-year
period. Both of them
period.
have done over 500%.
Like, phenomenal. What's even more interesting to me is that in the last 10 years, Sydney has done 68%, which is kind of lean. Melbourne's only done 28%. So there was some great information in the Australian Financial Review in late 2025 that we talked about, where it was like, this is the largest gap between the average house price in Sydney and Melbourne in over 30 years. And I think it was about a 60% difference between the two cities right now versus a 29% difference historically. So
and that's
Sydney's
the average.
constantly been Sydney. Yeah, and then you go to like
individual pockets.
Beachside suburbs in Melbourne right now are literally a third of the price the beachside suburbs in Sydney. But what's interesting about that is, like, you see the title and you're like, okay, you hear that in the Fin review, then you start to break it down year by year and you're like, I can see it. And then you read books like Money Master the Game and you look at the 8 types of biases we have as investors and you're like, recency bias. And so as we move into this year, all things considered, everywhere that you just mentioned at the start of this, according to SQM, or when you look at Domain, is looking like it's going to kick ass, right? As people would say, at this stage of the cycle, we'd expect that.
Yep.
But not everything from today to 10 years from now is going to be the same. So if you are one of the people that can sort of stomach this type of market and use logic to drive decisions, I think it's like that story that I talked about at the start. Like, I probably wouldn't walk over $2. My kids certainly wouldn't. And if I dropped 100 grand out of the back of the car, I'd probably go have a look for it. Like, what if you buy a 700k asset this year and you look at Perth, Adelaide, Hobart, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, or let's say $1 million, whatever you want to call it, the difference between these markets from today to 10 years from today could be, in some instances, more than 500k on the same money. And so let's get serious. And that's, I suppose, why as a business, for the first time in a long time, we're not just isolating ourselves to Brisbane and Melbourne, but we're actually going to support people to start looking openly across all of Australia again. We're going to look at Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, and then we're going to look at all of the regional markets around that. So obviously people have their own preferences and we can help them get the best properties for that. But if people really want to be data driven and driven by, like, I'm at 35,000 hours worth of experience now. Oh man, you got no idea how much blood there is on the east coast of Australia if you know where to find it right now.
Yeah, I'm pumped for 2026. It's going to be a great year, but I think at the same time, rather than trying to make decisions based on this calendar year of 2026, obviously you want to succeed there, no doubt about it, but it's like, how can I get from where I am today to where I want to be in 10, 15 or 20 years from now? Let's start thinking longer term. Let's stop getting so fixated on the short term and just build good quality property portfolios that have got a proven history of performing really well. Align with those fundamentals, avoid making mistakes or taking on too much risk, and and just think with a longer term approach, because clearly it works out for everyone that sticks in it for long enough.
G'day guys, my name's Ben and I'm the director here at Pumped on Property, and I just want to say a massive thank you for watching our content today. Now, if you're thinking about buying an investment property in the next 3 to 12 months, then the team and I would love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. In that session, we can talk about exactly where you are right now, where you'd like to be longer term, and we can deeply educate you on the Australian market. And then you can take that information and go and absolutely smash it on your own, or potentially become one of the small number of clients that we work with each week. To book your session, all you have to do is go to www.pumpedonproperty.com and click that book your free strategy session button. But either way, we wish you all the best on your journey as an investor to financial freedom.